Hey guys, Tower Climber here, and today I'm bringing you another Tower God video, and this one's going to be a bit different from my usual ones. This video is actually going to be my 100 subscriber special in a way. It's going to be different, and it's going to be a little more personal. I don't have a script for this video. I'm just kind of writing out my thoughts as they go along. I obviously have a list. But other than that, you guys are just kind of here along for the ride. This video is going to be my top 10 personal Tower of God fights. Before we start the actual list, I want to name off some rules I actually have before we start. First rule is that during this list there will only be one character per fight, meaning that in each fight, each character basically only appears once in this list. So this gives a lot of variety to the characters actually on the list. I won't be like doing top 10 bomb fights or something. Like if I didn't have this rule, basically it would be like all bomb fights or something like that, and I didn't want that to be the case. I wanted every character to kind of like get their own like little spotlight in this. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to do that because I didn't want it to just be filled up with a lot of repeating type of characters over and over again, and spotlight a lot of characters of Tower God that I really enjoy and don't get talked about enough, I think. Okay, and the second rule and the last rule will be that it has to be a fight. It cannot be an action scene. What an action scene would be like basically a good example of what an action scene is Evankel versus the 4th Squadron. That's an action scene, that's not a fight scene. She fights every single person there and she just kind of like summons hell. Okay, so let us get started with the actual list now. My number 10 is Beta versus basically a gauntlet of characters in the workshop battle arc. This is like the penultimate fight of the arc, and I think it doesn't get talked about enough because in my opinion this is a fight that involves a lot of people and a lot of characters that don't show up anymore, like Rack, like Laro, like Vespa and all that stuff, and you just get to see every single character kind of show their stuff and at least try to fight Beta. And yes, Bomb is included in this fight, but I think because of all the other characters that are involved in it, I differentiated enough to not be repeating, right? So overall, it's just very interesting, and also Beta as a character to me was always interesting. The ignition weapon plotline was always really cool to me, with Horyang and Kasuno, and then Beta, and technically Bomb too, but like a little less so. The reasons that Beta went crazy are explained in a way that could be better, but overall was handled well in a way that you can see this kid who was just grown up in an environment of just hatred and overall just experimentation because of their experimentation on someone else. And it's kind of like the dark side of the workshop and like what could have ended up happening to Kasuno and Horyang, and makes me like this fight a lot more than I think a lot of other people do. And again, it's just cool overall. Like you get to see Rack pop off and you just get to see him go crazy with versus Beta and all that stuff. Then Beta gets more and more unhinged throughout the fight. You get to see the stakes rising with Wang Nang getting stabbed through the heart. You get to see Loro just do one of the coolest things in my opinion and just like rip the parasite out of Beta's head so like nonchalantly, and then Iwa comes in and finally controls her flames and all that stuff, and it's just so cool, right? It's just like really awesome, and there's a lot of moments and a lot of character moments that are just great. And everyone knows the countdown to Bomb finally getting there, and then Bomb finally arriving in this big hero scene, like one of Bomb's first like I'm here scene, right, in the story, I would feel like. And it was just very cathartic and really cool at this point in the series, right? And the fight between Bomb and Beta, while short, was cool, and you get to see the four butterfly technique, Bomb using Han Sang-yu style long piercing, and yeah, you just get to see these characters that like are clashing, and I like how the fight really ends. Like it doesn't really finally end, it kind of just like Beta just going more crazy and crazy and crazy, and then finally he just kind of breaks down after everything. He's like, you won, you got everything, you won, and you're the best, Bomb, you're just the best and I'm the worst, like all that stuff. He goes crazy and he punches Bomb. But the thing that I really love about that interaction is the Bomb stays steadfast to his beliefs that no, these are my friends. These are the people that I grew to love and that love me back. These are mine. He basically says that I don't believe that I deserve to be unhappy. And that's kind of like the whole point of Bomb not wanting to be in Fug. Fug is forcing him to do all these stuff, and Bomb doesn't want that. Bomb wants to be happy with all his friends and all that stuff. And it's just a great final of the workshop battle before the actual conclusion of the workshop battle. So that's why it was going to be at my number 10. Next at number 9 is Hots versus Kun. The last fight had a lot of other people and a lot of narrative things. This fight is another fight that I love, but it's a lot shorter, so it doesn't have much to say. First, Hots is just awesome, right? It's just like every single time you see Hots on screen, you know something cool is about to happen, because this guy has kind of like how the AOA show said it. This guy has balls of literal steel, right? He doesn't care who he goes up against, a princess, a Nock, Kun, anyone from the 10 Great Families, he will go at it full force, and he trains like crazy. Hots is definitely one of my favorite characters in all of Tower of God for this reason, and it's just so cool. Kun is also one of my favorites, although it's like wishy-washy with him sometimes, but like there's certain points where I really love Kun, and like the Hell Train arc is definitely one of the times where I've loved Kun the most, in my opinion. And Kun he doesn't get a lot of fight scenes. And this is one of the times that you really get to see him go all out, and you see why Kun is really, really strong. Not just in his knife work, but also with his lighthouse manipulation. This is the first time we see a weapon boost from the lighthouse, which I love. Anytime we see anything with a lighthouse, I just go crazy, because I'm like, oh, cool, new ability for a lighthouse, right? I'm kind of like the lighthouse guy in the Tower Guy community. I just love the lighthouses, but it's really cool, and I like the reason why they're fighting. The Kun doesn't want Bomb to be Viol, right? He doesn't want Bomb to be forced to be this thing anymore, this entity that he believes is something that was forced upon Bomb and is a signifier that Bomb isn't Fug. He doesn't want that for his friend, his best friend. And Hot and Shibisu are not thinking about that. They're thinking about Dorsey, obviously, because she is their companion, right? And they're thinking about it as a mission that Bomb needs to do this, because if he doesn't do this, then Dorsey will not survive. But they're thinking about it in the best logical way, but not in a real way that they're thinking of Bomb as an actual human being and as a friend, more as like a tool to get something done. And I think that's the real difference between in this fight, and Hots can't really see that until Shibisu points it out to him. And then overall, after when he talks to Shilio, he says, friends can butt heads and friends can fight all the time, but at the end of the day, and fate tells us that we have to do one thing, then I will rather fight against fate than my friends, right? That's basically what Hot says, and I think it's a really good character little arc for him that he has in the Name Hunt Station. So overall, that is my number 9 on this list. Next, at number 8 on this list is Jinsung versus Perdity. I did not put Jinsung versus Caliban on this fight because although it is really good and has some emotional strings, I honestly believe that Caliban versus Jinsung was undercut by how short the ending of it kind of was, where Caliban was kind of just wrecking Jinsung, and then Jinsung pulled the Dragon Tiger Gate, which was really cool and really amazing. But I believe that the emotional tension not only is undercut by Jinsung actually surviving that fight, but from the action that we don't actually see like that much of the choreographed fight between Jinsung and Caliban. So honestly, the best Jinsung fight that is really balanced, even if it doesn't have a conclusion because of Traumarai, Jinsung versus Perdity is honestly a great show of skill for Jinsung, showing why he is an ancient beast, why he is this master of martial arts, how smart he is with all the knowing when to back off, knowing when to defend, knowing when to attack, and all that stuff, and showing off his intelligence when Dobo comes out, right? And he thinks that the Shinsu vibrations will save him, but it doesn't because of how Dobo's ability works. And that's the perfect segue for the other fighter in this fight, Perdity. Perdity just came here and showed out, honestly, and he wasn't even using his strongest owls, apparently. So I just love the idea of the Lopobia branch leaders having an animal that like isn't normal, like because you could have this be so generic where it's just an owl, it's just these things, but having Purdy have all of these like millions of owls that he can just explode, right? It's just so cool to me because it's just really wacky. Honestly, Purdy's design is also really just funny and cool to me at the same time, and it's really cool how SIU could do that. But overall, I think the aspect of Dobo and Purdy and Jinsung's show of skill makes this fight really cool to just watch as a visual treat. Alright, right above that one at number 7 is Endorsi versus Quant. This is actually the only season 1 fight on this list because I remember reading the webcomic and being like, okay, yeah, the world building's amazing, everything's amazing. I'm a fan of like other shows that have amazing world building like One Piece, Attack on Titan, all this stuff. But I was also like, okay, I know there's going to be a shift when a fight just really gets good. And one of those fights, in my opinion, or like the first one to actually do that for me was Endorsi versus Quant. Because if there's a lot of build up to this fight, not only in the way that Endorsi has been hyped up to be the strongest regular, right? At this point, we don't know how strong rankers are, but we have been shown a clear demonstration of Quant's abilities without even using Shinsu, because he basically destroyed every single other regular. And even though many of these regulars we don't know that well and we consider them mostly fodder because we don't know them, then he beats up somebody like Hots. Hots, who we have seen fight against Anak and is a warrior that we respect because of his skills that he has shown us, right, against many other people. And we saw how Quant was able to toy around with Hots and basically not even use his full power to beat him and all that stuff. Hots versus Quant is also an amazing moment for Hots. But I think Endorsi versus Quant has more build-up and it's just longer. The added addition of Bomb, freezing Quant, and all that stuff is great to me. And the fact that Endorsi and Bomb lose, they just straight up lost, which is good that they lost the fight, but it was also really cool to see that Endorsi was able to trick Quant, because we know that Quant, although being a ranker and though being skilled and stronger than everyone else, we have seen him get tricked by Kun. We have seen him get tricked by many of these people. And even though we don't think of Endorsi as somebody like that, like a Kun or whatever, she's still probably smarter than somebody like Quant, and she took advantage of that because of Quant's reckless nature. And I think that's just a really cool way to end the fight, with your characters losing, but still technically winning at the end of it. So yeah, that is my number 7. Next is number 6 on my list, which is Lopobia Traumarai versus Yama and Yasuracha. This fight was so cool because it's the first time we have ever seen a family leader actually fight. And the nonchalant way of Traumarai fighting, I remember reading this week to week and every single time just being more impressed by Traumarai, because every single time they even had a small inkling of a chance to do something to Traumarai, something new just happened that made them obsolete. Yasuracha gets past the Findar Harp. Boom, the Kraken comes out. He gets past Cobalt. Oh my goodness, it's an illusion. He didn't do anything. Every single time, and Haku made a great point that I really like, is that there was this panel where Yama was looking at Traumarai and looking at all these huge Shinwei that he was summoning and looking at it and saying, why does it feel like I'm further away than when I started this fight, right? Showing the clear gulf in power between a family leader and somebody who at this point is a squadron commander of Jihad's army, one of the top 100 rankers, and Yama, who's his equal, right, at this point in the story, basically, as shown, right? It's really insane, and there's multiple statements also that's just really cool that Yasuracha basically said, even with 100 of us, there's no way we could win, all that kind of stuff. It's just really cool, and the way that Traumarai was quote-unquote fighting them, but not really even, was really amazing to me. And obviously, I do kind of take this into consideration when Yama tried to be more strategic, right, and try to build up power and then unleashed his 50% mode of his full transformation. That was also a really hyped scene. Plus the fact that this is the first time ever, this fight is a lot of firsts, honestly, and this is the first time ever that we saw a family head, a current family head, use Shinsu Black Hole Sphere, and it was demonstrated amazingly, in my opinion. I think honestly, this is one of the times the webtoon did a line better that made me feel like more weight, because I remember hearing other translations of this line that I heard and I was like, oh, okay, it's like, it's impressive, but I mean, like, yeah, we're kind of like being shown this. Another translation said that everyone in the nest, near or far, weak or strong, were able to feel this Shinsu Black Hole Sphere, right? Except for one person, Bomb. But in the webtoon, this line I remember reading for the first time, and I felt the power from this one line. It was every single person in the tower felt when Traumarai released his Shinsu Black Hole Sphere. And I remember that, and I was like, that is insane. This is a god. This is a family head. Every single person in the entire tower could feel this Shinsu Black Hole Sphere. Not even when it was released. No, just when it popped up. I remember hearing that line and reading it for the first time, and I was just like, oh my goodness, they're done. Everyone's dead on this floor. And it's just so cool to me. It was just really cool. No matter how you feel about Traumarai, this I think was one of the best introductions of somebody as strong as him, right? You can talk about Yurik's introduction, you can talk about Data Jahad's introduction, all that kind of stuff. The big one, right? Not the little Data Jahad. You can talk about all these introductions, right? But the one that was the longest and definitely showed the most of what these high rankers are really, really, really capable of was this fight, and I appreciate it a lot for it. So yeah, that will be my number 6 on this list. My number 5 on this list is Kun Ron versus Inieta. I remember reading this fight and I was just like, oh my goodness, this fight is just cool. This fight doesn't really have that. I've talked a lot about other fights that are cool but have some emotional stakes and all that stuff. This fight is just awesome to look at. The choreography, the explanations of the power, the REA swordsmanship, round blocking with his body and attacking even harder, all that kind of stuff. It was just so amazing and awesome to see, because Ron is honestly so cool. Every single time he fights, it's so cool to me, because it's like, you know, you're gonna get a treat when you see this guy fight and be on stage. And we have seen Iniesta fight against Rock, fight against Iwa, fight against I forgot the guy's name, but you know, the Euros fanboy, right? And you're just like, okay, we know who's gonna fight Kaiser. We know Bomb's gonna fight Kaiser. At this point, I remember thinking like maybe Endorsey could also fight Kaiser, like alongside Bomb. I was kind of like thinking that in my head when I was first reading the arc. But at least you know who's going to be the one who fights Kaiser, right? It's going to be Bomb, right? But you look at Iniesta and you're kind of like, that's also somebody on the game board, and you're just like, who's gonna fight this person? And then you see it's Ron, and you're just like, oh, that's perfect. This fight, you know, Ron's gonna get on his nerves. You know, Iniesta's gonna get on Ron's nerves. It's just gonna be great. The banter was great. The choreography was great. Lightning Pill Ron was great. Him using 2 lightning pills was awesome. The ending of the fight was great and satisfying. I like the fact that other people show up in this fight and help Ron, and Ron's just like, you're the only one who decided this was a one-on-one. Are you stupid? Why did you decide that? There's no rules. There's no one's forcing us to be one-on-one. And Iniesta's like, oh, I like the alligator way more than you. Like, it's just, the banter was great. And the fact that Iniesta actually dies at the end of the fight, and that flashback with Kaiser saying that he was worthy of his skills and all that stuff was just great. And I just really loved that fight for everything that it held. And yeah, it's just really good, really solid fight that I wish we get a little more of in Tower of God moving forward, because this is the type of energy that I would love from future fights. Next, at number 4 on this list is White versus Calavan. Fully completed White versus full power Calavan. Okay, this fight I put here instead of the Jinsung one because we don't have that much emotional stake with White and all that stuff, but the thing that we do have with White is build up. This guy was introduced at basically the beginning of the Hell Train arc as like Bomb's opposite, right? The actual like full-on villain for Bomb, right? Rachel is like the opposite of Bomb in like the lore and the narrative sense, right? White was always like Bomb's freezer, right? The one that's going to fight him, oppose him, get on his nerves and all that stuff, and the one that Bomb will never ever like really like. And we always hear every single time we see White, he always talks about how he's not complete. And every single time, every single arc, we know that he's not complete. We know that he's not complete. Then in the previous arc, before the nest, White actually not completed fights Caliban, and Caliban beats White, and you kind of like in the back of your head, oh, how would he actually stack up if he was complete? And all this stuff. And then we get this whole little mini thing in the Nest arc where Khun is plotting behind Bomb's back, trying to revive White and all that stuff. And you know, you get all the Khun planning and all that stuff to kill the Windbird, and then White comes out. It's great. All that stuff, the lead up to White actually getting his powers is great. And actually seeing White fight for the first time is just a show. You get to see all of his abilities. There's no holding back, and that's what I love. This fight feels so raw in the way that a lot of other fights don't feel. They just go all out. White uses his strongest sword that he can make, and Caliban is just raging because he wants to complete the mission and he doesn't want his soldiers' lives to be in vain. So they're just going at it. This fight doesn't have a real conclusion, which I think is hindering it, but at the same time, I don't believe that a lot of Tower God fights need conclusion to still be great, because they still happen, right? A conclusion doesn't really hinder the fight that much, in my opinion. So overall, it just kind of depends how the fight ends, and I think how the fight ended with enhancing Caliban's character for me, with the explosion of the battleship and the loss of his soldiers, right? And him losing the will to fight made that ending of the fight feel more weighty. And you know, it's just so cool, like White pushing Caliban to the point where he has to blow up his arm, and then Caliban just reforms his arm out of Shinsu, and that's just like, what? That's just amazing, so cool. And that's like, I don't know, I'm losing my words. It's like so amazingly badass, and every single thing that happens in this fight is just that. It's badass. There's nothing else that I can really say. It's just so cool. And again, like, it might have less emotional weight than other things, but like the badassery is there, and there's no way I can ignore that. There's how it made me feel in the moment is that just pure unadulterated hype. And yeah, that's why I have it this high on the list. Next, at number 3 in this fight is Yuri versus Kuraka. And the only two real Yuri fights that I could have had on this list was Yuri and Kuraka, or Yuri versus Tiara. And while Yuri versus Tiara was definitely an amazing fight, and I would probably put it in my top 20 fights, right? I think Yuri and Kuraka is just like such an iconic fight in this story. This is the first time we are actually seeing two high ranker people go at it. We have seen so many times Yuri just embarrass her opponents with Ren, with Pedro, with every single other opponent that we have seen Yuri fight. She has embarrassed them, and you're just like, at this point, Yuri seems literally unstoppable. And then you keep hearing in the background Kuraka's name. He's a slayer. We don't know what a slayer fully is yet. We don't know what their title is, what they mean. We just know they're gods of Fug. And you're like, okay, Bomb is a candidate. Joaquin is a candidate. We know what a candidate is. We know how scary they could be as regulars. And we've heard little sprinkles of Kuraka's name being thrown around everywhere through his minions and all that stuff. And you're just like, when is Kuraka actually gonna fight? And actually going to not even fight, just show up in the story and do something worthwhile. And the first thing he does is, right after Pedro dies, he gets on that train, he reads Pedro's memory, goes out of the train, and the first thing he says to Yuri, you're going to die, and I'm going to kill you. And that was just insane. It blew my mind. It was, I don't know, man. It was just literal atomic bombs thrown in this fight. From Yuri going full power, she literally said, I'm going full power because you're somebody that in the future could pose a threat to me because of how much you can grow and all that stuff. And Kuraka is like, I compare Kuraka a lot when I have to make a comparison to him, like to somebody like Mahito from JJK, where yeah, you have to kill this guy or else he's going to come back and become even stronger, right? We have seen Kuraka has exponential growth, just like almost every type of slayer we have seen in this story, like White and Yama and all that stuff. Obviously, we have not seen the fruits yet of Kuraka's full like growth because he's the youngest slayer and all that stuff. But even then, the display he went against Yuri and Evan, like the World of Darkness, so cool. The counter, so cool. Everything, literally so cool. And the thing about that is that not only does Karaka have this well of potential, and you're just like, oh, I have to kill this guy because if not, he's gonna come back and be stronger. You can't do that because Karaka is immortal, and you're just like, well, I'm screwed, I guess. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And honestly, because this is also the first time we get to learn about Karaka's immortality, and it's just such a cool thing to learn about because it makes you really feel like this guy is just a god. Like he cannot die. He's an immortal god. Like it just transcends a lot of the abilities that we have been seeing up to this point in the story, right? Alongside with Yuri and her rose shower that like literally enveloped the entire floor when we saw it, and it was crazy. Like the name hunt station, the thing that we were fighting in, the entire arc looks like a speck compared to her blast at the end of the fight. It's crazy. And also this is the first time that we fully learn about Wang Nan's relationship to Karaka, and that is also another amazing moment because Karaka just goes mental when Bomb tells him about that, and he's like, what are you talking about? I'm going to kill you if in the next 2 seconds you do not tell me where he is, right? And then you get the final scene of where I still consider this scene in the fight where you see Karaka looking down at his ring and he says, so he is alive, my brother, and all that stuff. And then you see Wang Nan and you're just like, oh my goodness, it's just crazy. Everything's crazy in this fight, and I really want to emphasize that because I want to show you guys the emotions that I was in when I first read this fight, because this is the exact emotions that I had when I read this, and it's just amazing and crazy to me that this fight was like even done in the first place. Number 2 in my list of top 10 fights is Yurik Mazino versus Lustlek. Basically take what I said about Traumarai versus Yama and Yasracha and Yuri versus Kuraka and mix them together. You get to see these absolute gods, but this time it is a fight between two gods, not just like one god versus like top 100 rankers or something. This is number 4 of the tower and number 15, the head of Fug and the head of, well, co-head of, well, Haik-Song. Yeah, this fight is crazy. Just from lore and hype, this fight is absolutely insane, and it just kind of comes out of nowhere, and I think that comes to the benefit of this fight, because no one even would have predicted in a million years that this is what was going to happen. We were all prepping for like a full-on Gustang versus Stromrai fight, which I'm still hoping we do get, but it's just like, what? Okay, Yurik is here, and now Lustlek is here, and now they're fighting. Lustlek is apparently a master of spells. Cool, he probably learned that from Arlene Grace or something, and he's also like a master fisherman or all that stuff. We know this because of SIU's blog posts and all that stuff, and also because of using piercing techniques on Yurik and all that stuff, and Yurik is just kind of like brute forcing his way through everything, and he was able to punch a spell, and you're just like, what is happening? Oh my goodness, this is amazing. What? And you just see Yurik, who has been literally untouchable in the story, actually get pushed in a fight where obviously he's not using 100%, obviously he's not using full-on power, but he's using name techniques and he's actually using force, right? And this fight, and I like how this fight ends with not Yurik being like, oh, I don't have time for you anymore because you're not fighting me seriously or something like that. No, it ends on Lustlek's terms. Lustlek literally was like, I don't have time for you and I'm going to get out of here, and he uses a spell to get away from Yurik, right? And the aftermath and basically like the shit talking in this fight is also insane. Like Lustlek legit called Yurik broke, and he like was insulting Yurik the entire time. He called some he called Yurik like somebody below my level. Why would I fight you, right? And it's like crazy amount of disrespect to Yurik, and it's just absolutely insane. If somebody were to tell me that the head of Bug would look at Yurik and would be fighting Yurik, and not only fighting Yurik but calling him broke in the middle of a fight, is insane to me. And that is like, and I was just like, I would never believe you, right? I would say you're lying to me. What are you talking about? What is this fan fiction stuff that you're talking about right now? It's just, I just love Lustlek's personality and how non-serious he is, how laid back he is, and how serious he could get in serious situations, right? And we also have the last line by Lustlek that I love so much, is basically when Jinsung was asking him, do you really mean it when you said you could beat Yurik? And Lustlek is like, I think of some ways to beat him, right? But not even I know how big the ocean is. And that's just like an amazing line to end off this fight, because it just goes to show you not only how experienced Lustlek is to be like, oh yeah, this person that's probably like the only other person in the entire tower that could fight like somebody like the king of the tower, like Jihad, right? Yeah, I think I can find some way around his abilities, but also giving respect in some way to Yurik, being like, yeah, this guy is strong and he hasn't even shown us a drop of his bucket of power yet. And even with that bucket of power, he was able to break through my spells like almost nothing. So yeah, it would definitely be tough, but I thought of some ways to do it, right? So I just love that aspect of the fight. And obviously what brings this fight up is legit the shit talking. It's so good. I never thought that I would ever be hearing somebody call Yurik broke and live to tell the tale. I know I keep talking about that a lot, but it's just so funny to me, right? So like yeah, so this is my number 2 fight of all of Tower God, and for good reason, I think. And finally we have arrived at number 1 in this list, and that is Bomb versus Data Jihad. Look, you know, call me predictable, call me whatever, this fight rocks. Like, okay, first off, Bomb uses every single power he knows. He uses the Thorn, he uses the Orbs, he uses the Shinsu Black Hole Sphere. He uses every power he has, and not only basically, he uses them super incredibly smart. He uses the Shinsu Black Hole Sphere with the Orbs to block attacks. He used the Blue Shield to create wings. He uses the Orb for defense and offense and all this stuff. It's just, he uses every single power he knows to his fullest abilities, and the entire time you can really tell that he needs to, because how I've said many times in this fight, Data Jihad is toying with Bomb at the beginning. He, every single time, he always says the phrase, looks like I'm going to finally need to go even harder, right? Every single time he's stepping up the ante. So imagine if Data Jihad was like, I don't want to have fun with you, I really just want to kill you. From the beginning, he could have killed Bomb right then and there, the second they would have started the fight. There's no way you can even deny that. There's no way, right? So basically, not only is this fight like amazingly choreographed, amazing in like storytelling, the way that like Bomb shows us his inner world, the times where he's like, I draw this line and this is my power, this is not something that was handed to me, this is mine. Kind of like the whole thing with his friends situation in the past with the beta fight in the first on this list, but now with his own powers, because everyone is telling Bomb that he needs to kill Jihad. Everything in his life is telling him that Arlene's message, everything, the prophecies and everything around him is telling him to kill Jihad, but he as a person doesn't even know Jihad, right? How does he know that this person actually is evil, or if everyone in the past is just crazy or lying to him or like telling him lies, right? Who knows? He was just somebody from outside of the tower who came into this insane tower and now has the responsibility of basically changing it by killing the king of the tower. And he doesn't know if that's what he wants to do, but through not only this fight, not only through everything that he has experienced, he's like, okay, look, I know now fully in my head that I want to beat you. I know that I want to take you down. And in part of me thinks that Bomb sees this version of Jihad and sees that he is a little bit different from the Jihad on the outside, especially since this Bomb kind of saw Data Jihad and compared him to Big Jihad and all that stuff, and he sees that they're very different. I think at some point, like internally, he's like, okay, this guy was not always like this, but clearly he changed some way along the way, and I want to see how much he changed. So I want to meet the real Jihad, and I want to see if I can see even a glimpse of the old Jihad in him. Also, let's not just skip over Data Jihad. Like, Data Jihad, this entire fight was amazing. Like, every ability, Lecalicus, Colacanth, and Leviathan, that was amazing. His experience, his Shinsu control, his rampage ability, his golden needles things, everything, literally summoning planets from his Shinsu, like Cosmos, that was insane. Like, again, like we've seen like other high rankers fight and all that stuff, but this is like the first time you see like two irregulars like fully go at it, and it's really something marvelous to see, because you just see all these unique creative techniques, and you know that this fight will have a continuation later on in the story, that we will be able to compare this fight to most likely what will happen in the story versus Bomb and future Jihad, like current Jihad. It's a prelude to everything that happened, and it has the most buildup in the entire story. The entire story is focusing around not only Bomb, but Jihad's system that Bomb was transferred into basically when he entered the tower. And every single thing that we have seen, that people talk about Fug, they talk about Bomb, they talk about Jihad, all of that finally comes together in this one great, amazing package of a fight. It's just amazing, and it's, call me generic, but it is my number one fight in all of Tower of God. And I don't think there's anything close yet that will change my opinion on that. But hopefully one day this will be overthrown by even a better fight in the Tower of God universe. And so yeah, that's my list, and hopefully you guys liked it. Again, there's no script for this. I'm probably gonna have to edit around a lot. Hope you guys liked it, and hope you guys liked me just kind of like talking, rambling, and all that stuff. So yeah, wish you guys have a wonderful day. And remember guys, I will always be here to tell you the truth, and when the truth is not fully explained, I will be here to give you my opinion on the truth. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye.